Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Ask the Expert session. My name is Rebecca Cronin, and I'm one of the customer success managers here with the Altair team. Now, some of you might recognize my voice from either participating in our onboarding sessions or perhaps seeing my name within the user community. Just a friendly reminder, the customer success team are here as another point of contact for you to reach out at any time, as well as if you are unable to get a hold of your account manager or any kind of questions, concerns regarding Altair solutions. We also can provide you assistance in receiving access to our user community and to our Altair One platform. So a little housekeeping real quick. On the right side, probably your control panel, you will see a question box where you have the opportunity to submit any questions that you'd like to be addressed and reviewed. It does not have to be about the topic that we're reviewing today. It could be anything Monarch or even Monarch server. You'll also see a handout section. It's a copy of today's PowerPoint that you can download for your reference. It does include some helpful web links that you may or may not be aware of that you can share with other colleagues. So again, we're very excited you're joining us today for our Ask the Expert session. As it is, our goal is to help to give you an open time slot to address topics that were voted from our previous attendees, and then any questions that you may have. If we don't get a chance to get to your question, we will follow up with you directly. And if you do submit a question, just note it's being shared with everyone in attendance today. And if it's something you want to be shared offline and private, please make sure to add that comment when you submit your question. So now I'd like to introduce you to our expert, Mo Abdolrahim. He is one of our senior professional service consultants. He's been with our organization for over 14+ years, giving customers assistance both on and off site, helping meet your project needs. So you might have had the pleasure of working with him directly, or perhaps some interaction within the user community. So again, our topic today is we're going to be working with Excel files, probably known as Excel trapping, worksheet design. So with no further ado, let me make Mo presenter, and we will begin.
Okay, thanks, Rebecca.
You're welcome, Mo.
All right, so let me share my screen here.
We see your Outlook right now.
Okay, that's actually doesn't want to.
There we go. I see your blue screen.
No, it want to share a different screen.
Okay.
Okay, so
it's like it's an aqua teal with some little
right. Okay, so before I start, let me just open up. Can you see
a PowerPoint presentation? I do.
PowerPoint. Okay. Can you see the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, I do.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, welcome everybody. So I'm just going to go through some slides to just go over the Monarch and primarily working with Excel files. So the latest version of Monarch desktop is version 2023.0.2. And if you are using version 2023.1, that's also the same. There is not much functionalities difference between the two, except we just pulled the old licensing method from 2023.1, and so the from 2023.2. So, but as far as functionalities goes, between 2023.1 and .2 is the same. So, as you know, Monarch Desktop comes with two programs. One is Monarch Classic. The other one is Monarch Data Prep Studio, okay? And you can use both of these programs depending on how comfortable you are using one or the other. Both programs can read the Excel files, okay? So in Monarch Classic, Excel, you can read Excel as a database. So you have to open Excel as a database in Classic, whereas in Data Prep Studio, you select Excel spreadsheet, and then there are a couple of choices. One is Microsoft Excel, and the other one Excel Worksheet Design, okay? If you are working with Excel as database or Microsoft Excel in Data Prep Studio, these two, when Monarch reads these two the Excel files, it uses one of these two engines, legacy engine or mother engine. So this is only important that if you are working with Monarch Server Automator, you need to make sure that if you are using legacy engine when you build your model or workspace, you also use legacy engine on the Monarch Server Automator, okay? Or if you're using Mother engine, you have to make sure that you're using Mother in the Automator. Other than that, you just, you can use one or the other. If you see that if you're working with legacy engine and you see some behavior that doesn't look too good, you may want to switch to Mother engine and see how the data is rendered when it's reading the data from the Excel file. If you're working with Excel worksheet design, that doesn't use any of these two engines, so you can skip it. And whether you're using a Classic or Data Prep, it supports XLS, XLSX, and XLSM. So these are supported Excel files that you can use. So again, Excel connector or Excel, Microsoft Excel is easier to use for worksheets with column headers and row data. So if you have Excel that has headers and data, it's very easier to use using Microsoft Excel. Like this example, as you can see that the first row has column headers, and there are rows. There are no logos or other descriptions on top. So this, if this is the case, yeah, you can use a Microsoft Excel. And the thing is, if the sheet name also remains the same. So if, for example, if this sheet name is going to change in the next file that you receive, then Microsoft Excel or Excel connector is not a good choice to use. Okay. All worksheets can be loaded in Data Prep. So Data Prep, when you load Excel in Data Prep, if you have multiple worksheets, all worksheets can be loaded in Data Prep Studio. And in Data Prep Studio, you can select Microsoft Excel, which is different than Excel Design. Again, if you're using Excel, Microsoft Excel, as long as your Excel file has rows and columns, doesn't have logos or descriptions on top of the file, then you may use Excel, Microsoft Excel. It's easier to use. If you are working with Excel in Monarch Classic, Monarch Classic can only read one sheet. So if the Excel file has multiple sheets, in Monarch Classic it only handles one sheet. Okay. If your Excel file is something like more complicated, contains like logos, descriptions, then you may want to switch to the Excel worksheet design. Okay, such as this example. Like you can see, there is a logo here, there is some text here, there's some headers here. So in this case, using Microsoft Excel is not a good choice. So you're better off using Excel as worksheet design in Data Prep Studio. And that's only available in Data Prep Studio, not Monarch Classic. All right. So this is an example of opening an Excel file in Monarch Classic. Again, you select open database, computer, you navigate to where the file is, and then you click on select table. So if you have multiple tables, you can only select one table, not multiple tables. And then you click on select, and then define and import data. And in define and import data, which is opened Excel files in table design in Classic, you can see the engine, the two engines that you can choose, and you can only choose, like if the first row contains column names. Okay, it doesn't give you the choice of, skip so many rows or remove null rows. Doesn't have that in Excel in Monarch Classic. And this is where you can select all the columns from Excel files or deselect them, that the one you don't need, and you just continue on, you click on the accept button. In Data Prep Studio, you select spreadsheet and you click on Microsoft Excel. So this is, again, uses those two engines. And in Data Prep, you can choose multiple worksheets. So you can select multiple worksheets. You can click on the eyeball icon to see a preview of the data. And here it's more, it has more options here. So you can select, skip so many rows at the beginning of the Excel files, or ignore blank rows, show name ranges, and select the engine here. Okay, and if you select multiple worksheets, then you can click on load selected. So whatever you select here, it will load all the worksheets in Data Prep Studio. Okay, Excel trapping, again, is designed to deal with complex Excel input. Okay, worksheets of similar layout. So if the worksheets, you have multiple worksheets, as long as they have similar layout, you can use a Excel trapping. It also uses Monarch style template hierarchy and extraction rules. So if you worked with Monarch and you worked with extracting data from PDF or text, it just uses similar Monarch style template. Guided trapping mode, it has a wizard that helps you to extract the data from Excel using Excel trapping. Trapping also on richer metadata, such as extraction via traps, which consisting of rules. So you can set up rules by value, font, alignment, and cell. You can also apply multiple rules per trap. If you have multiple rules per trap, and then it uses the AND operator. Okay. You can also have one trap per column, multiple traps per template, traps on multiple lines of multiple line template. What that is, if you have a Excel file which has like an address block or some few lines that is merged into a cell, and it has a carriage control, then you can there's an option in Excel trapping that it will select the entire block, and you can specify what is the beginning and what is the end of that block. Template types like Monarch, okay? Again, it uses the template like Monarch, like the detail, append, footer, exclusion, but it does not have header or start and region template. Those are the two templates that are not available when you're using Excel trapping. So to use Excel trapping, again, you select under favorite spreadsheet, Excel worksheet design, and then you select your Excel file, and by default you have to specify the detail. You have to do the detail template first, and then you can add other templates. The Guide Me button is a wizard that helps you to extract data from Excel. If you click on the clear button, this clear button remove all your templates, so you have to redo it again. So be careful, although it gives you a warning that it's going to clear everything, okay? And when you define Excel trapping, you have the trap that shows, this tab shows your trapping. The other tab shows the columns that are selected, okay? And you will see a number of buttons on top, like a wizard button that allows you to define, add a trap, add a column, or exclude a row, or define headers, okay? I think that is the very last slide I have, and that's it. So let's just dive into one example. Okay, so you can, in Data Prep Studio, you can select spreadsheet and Excel worksheet design. That's one double click here. Or you can also drag and drop. So when you drag and drop an Excel file, so for example, I have an Excel file. This is the one Excel file with 7 sheets. So if I open it in Microsoft Excel, let me see what's coming on the other screen. So you can see that this has some payroll data. So each worksheet has different data, but the template or the layout is the same between all worksheets. Okay. So because the tabs are different here, it's you know, we can use a Microsoft Excel, okay, because these have different tab names, and in the future we may get a file that has, you know, more or less tabs. Okay, so it's better to use Excel as worksheet as opposed to Microsoft Excel. So if I drag and drop this file to Data Prep Studio, a dialog box will come up that is asking me, you know, if I want to use the Excel trapping, click on yes, or Microsoft Excel, click on no. Okay, since I want to use Excel trapping, I just click on the yes button. And here I am in a Excel worksheet design. Okay, so for detail template, as you know, detail template is the template that defines data record. So the data set would be basically based on the detail template. So I want a record for every employee. Okay, therefore I need to select this row. But before I do this manually, let's just try, you know, go through the guide me, see how guide me works in this case. Okay, so you just click on guide me, and then it's got these steps from top to the bottom, and then it just kind of gives you some descriptions, you know, what to do. So let's click on start. So the first thing is asking me for the detailed template. I need to select a row. So you need to find which row that would be the part of the detailed template. Again, the detailed template is the template that defines data records, okay, in the data set. So if I want a record for each employee, I need to select that row for the detail. So once I select a row, then this button confirm row is being displayed. Okay, so I just click on confirm row, and you can see that it selected all the rows except the G column. Okay, as you can see that the G column is not being selected, but other rows are selected, other columns are selected here. And again, it gives me some descriptions that if I want to apply the header, select the header and then click on apply headers button. As you can see, the apply header button is disabled, but once I select the header columns, the button is enabled. So I just click on apply headers, and it just basically applies the header columns here. Okay, and so these are the field names, and already the headers applied. And you can also change, for example, if AB means a character, pound means a numeric, and if I have date, it will show as a clock. So if I click on the pencil, you can change the name, although we don't need to change the name here because the header is already applied. Okay, so let's go to the next step. Okay, on the next step, it is asking me if any column is missing, so I can select it and then click on add a column. Okay, so I want to select a column like here, not up here, because if I click up on the G, you notice that add a column is not selected, it's disabled. So I want to select the right here where the header is, or you can just select here, it really doesn't matter, and then click on add column button. And what it does, it just adds this column G to the end. Okay, so since the header is already applied, so I can just manually modify the column name, and just this is ER amount. Okay, and then I can continue to the next step. Okay, so on the next step, it is asking me, you know, select any row that is missing from the data, and then click include selected. So if there are any rows here that are missing, I can, for example, I can go to the top and select a row, and you notice that include selected is available. It becomes available. Or if I want to exclude a row, For example, I don't want these earnings to be part of the data record. I want this to be excluded. All right. So in that case, I'm going to select that row and then exclude selected. Okay. So you notice that once I click that, that total earnings or total deductions or taxes are excluded from the preview section. All right. And if I want to add another row, okay, although I don't want it to add, but well, let's just add this row. You can just say include selected. So it's just basically, although this probably messed up the, as you notice that it just messed up the guide, the wizard. It just messed it up. So I can just, I don't know if I can go back and fix this unless I just continue and then next, and then I just have to, manually fix this because this last piece did not quite work. Okay, I don't use guide me that often. I hardly ever use guide me because I try to just use this manually. So let's just try extracting data using manual method. So I'm just going to click on the clear button. Okay. So let's start doing this manually. Again, I'm going to select the row that should be part of the data set. Okay, so that is the detail template. And I can change this name, call this employees. Okay. And there are two choices here, auto-defined table, add column. If I select auto-defined table basically applies some trapping to the selected row, but it may not pick up all the columns. Okay, I like add columns because by selecting add column, it will select all the columns that I selected here. Okay, so if I click on add columns, it will select A through H and it doesn't skip G. Granted that this project, it's also part of the first row, but we can get rid of that later on. Okay, so I have, these are the column names and there's only one trap. The trap is applied to column A. Okay, you notice that when a trap is applied to any column, there's a triangle next to the on each row. If that triangle has a solid triangle with the blue color inside, that means there's a trap applied to that column. If you see there is a triangle without the solid blue color, that means that there is no trap applied to other columns. Okay, so here I added created my detail, but I want to remove this first row here because I don't want that. So I can just go to the detail, to the trap, and click on the pencil to go to the trapping page. So here there are 3 traps applied to this particular cell A. It is set as non-blank. Well, it's non-blank. The font is Tahoma. So if I click on the cell itself, on the cell properties, you can see the cell metadata information. So this is the font name is Tahoma. The size is 8, and the color is obviously is black. Okay, and then the alignment is left align and top. Okay, so how would I remove this project on the first row? Well, there are other options here, so I can add another value rule to the value. So if I click on the value rule button, there are other choices here that you can choose. Okay, this one is for Monarch. So if I select that, I can just say if it's it starts with project. For example, I can just say project and not case sensitive. And you notice that it only shows project. Okay, so if I negate it, so you can also negate the trapping. By negating it, it's basically get rid of it. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Another option would be if I just go and say, starts with, for example, project and negate it. So there are many ways to just get rid of that row so it doesn't show in our data set. Okay. So once I finish modifying, removing that project, I can just click on that button to go back to the worksheet design here. And now I want to remove this earning totals, basically total earnings, total deductions, total taxes. Okay. Again, I can select a row. Again, you can see that exclude rows. Okay. So I can click on this button. This is going to add another trap to exclude that. Okay. So you notice that a new trap is just added to column C. So if I click on this trap, you notice that there's a solid triangle showing in column C, which means a trap is applied. And most likely it is probably because these totals are bolded. It's bold here. For some reason, yeah, bold, yes. I was okay. So it's bold, yes, and it's just negating bold. If I uncheck this, then it will display that the totals. By negating it, it just removes it. Okay. So you can trap by value, by font, by alignment. So these are the alignment, by cell, background, left border, right border, top border, and bottom border. And if you need to know what is the background border, you just look at the metadata. You click on the cell, and you just the cell information changes, and it gives you the metadata for that cell. Okay. All right. So now that I define my detail, I want to capture the project and the period in this report. Okay. Again, since this is above the detail, similar to Monarch working with the text or PDF, if the data is above the detail, you need to select choose append template. Okay. So just name this project. I recommend changing the template name so it's easier when you click, when you're looking at the templates, especially if you have too many templates, you can tell, which data each template is selecting. Okay, so I selected my template. Now I need to add a trap. Okay, excuse me. If I click on Add Trap button, it only adds a trap. It doesn't add the column. Then I have to add the column on the next step. But if I click on Add a column, it adds the trap as well as add the column. If I don't add a new template, like append template, I could have selected this row, the project, and click on Capture this data as an append. Okay, so I could just, not doing this, but just click on this button, and it would just add a template and then add that column. And by the way, if you run the guide me wizard, guide me does not provide a group footer template. It only program to add the detail and append template. Okay, so I'm just going to click on Add Column. So which adds the column here for the project, and then I can just change the name, and optionally I can change the type of the data, character, number, or date. Okay, if let's say this had multiple lines that I want to capture the whole multiple lines, then I would select this option, enable multi-line cell, in which I could define, what is the stop type, what is the delimiter, and then it would capture that block of data, which is like, in a merge cell. All right. Then the next step is I want to capture period. That would be another options. Okay. So append, and then add column. Okay. So now we can see that add column is added. Okay. On the top right corner in Excel worksheet design, there is a settings. These settings you can change. For example, the color, this solid triangle. If you don't like the blue color, you can change it to some other color. And by default, it's got this purple color around the triangle. So if you don't like it, you can change that. Conversion options. This is if you want to, if you're working with the date that is not month, day, year, you can change that. Okay. And input options. This is special. So if your Excel, this is in some cases that if Excel has some numeric or date that is kind of rounding, it doesn't. When it comes to Excel design, it rounds it. So you may want to just play with these options, which basically gives you some explanation what to do, what is the purpose of these two options. The other option is recursively evaluate formula. This is in case you have an Excel file with multiple sheets and one cell gets its value from another cell, which is a cell reference, and there are some formula in that cell reference being applied. So it tries to calculate that formula in the other cell and apply it to the cell that's been referenced. Okay, so by choosing this second option. Okay, again, these are some special cases, but it's good to know. Like I said, if you see like your number is not it's rounded, is not showing the exact number, you may want to just choose these options and try it. Okay. So I don't know if I have anything. So if I have something like here, I want to capture the date here. So that would be again would be this is below the detail. Again, I'm going to select. Again, you notice that capture this data as an append. So this would not, I cannot choose this as an append because this is basically below the detail. I have to use a group footer or footer template. Call this date. All right, and then add trap or add column. Again, if you select add trap, it just doesn't add the data. It just adds the trap, and then you have to add the data. By choosing add column, it just adds the trap as well as the column. So a trap is applied. Basically, you can see that it is a date, and it's got this font. And by the way, you can also use this eyedrop to grab the color. So if you want to grab a color in certain cell, you just click on the eyedrop, click on that value here, and it just puts the number for the color in these R, G, and B boxes. Okay, and then alignment is left and top. Okay, so I capture all my data here that I needed. So the beauty of using Excel trapping is when I click either apply to or accept, it will tell me that if I want to apply this to the first worksheet, by name or by number or first sheet or last sheet or all worksheet. Okay. Again, if you suspect that when you get another file and the worksheet name would change, so let's say there's only one sheet, but you suspect that the next file you get, it's not going to be the same name, then you use first sheet. If you use first sheet, it doesn't care what name you used previously. It just applies the macro first sheet and pulls the data from that first sheet or the last sheet. In my case, I want to apply this to all worksheets because if I I know I'm going to get another file that has more tabs. So therefore, I want to use all worksheets. Okay, and there it is. Once I apply all worksheets, now I'm in the prepare page in Data Prep Studio. The first thing I do, I save my work. Make sure this is saved. Call this payroll. Okay, and so basically, all the data on all worksheets are extracted and appended into a single table. Okay. Now, if I try, initially before we didn't have Excel as a worksheet, as a trapping, and we had to do this in Microsoft Excel. It would be lots of work to do that, to come up with this table. And then if he had another Excel file with more tabs or less tabs, then we had to manually make a lot of changes. But here, it's all done in one table. Then I can prepare certain columns, like remove the data for the project or period or change the date. Although I forgot to change the date column when I was in worksheet design. Okay. Now watch if so this only has 7 sheets. Now if I pull an Excel file with more sheets, so I have another one with 9 sheets. Okay. So it applies the trapping rule to the new file and pulls all the data. And you can also display the worksheet name as another field by using a metadata column. Click on the button and select the source table name, which basically shows the worksheet name. So this basically has all the 9 sheets, because the layout is the same, and so it applies the trapping and pulls the data from the new file. Okay. All right. So I don't see any questions so far. I can, if there is no questions, I can go.
There was a pre-registered question, Mo.
Oh yeah, there was that's right. Rebecca won't let me forget that. Yes, the question was about the Excel file, right? Am I right? Selecting multiple Excels, or not Excels, Excel or CSV file. Is that the right one?
Yes, that's the question.
So let me find the questions. I don't see the questions. So the question
at the bottom.
At the bottom. Okay, I'm looking at. Okay, so there's the question. Yeah. So let me just copy the question.
Yeah, I copied it in the chat already. So the question was, is it possible to build a model from multiple CSV or XLSX files, or easily upload content of a folder containing multiple CSV files without clicking on each file?
Okay, so you cannot, if you have a folder with multiple CSV files, you cannot select a folder. Okay, you can select multiple CSV files. If you have multiple Excel, again, you have to select one Excel. and then multiple sheets. But if you have multiple Excel files, not Excel, delimited files. So let me see if I have. So let's say I have a bunch of CSV files for different months. So I'm going to hold the control key. All right, select those 3 months. Okay, and then open. And these files have the same layout, the same column headers. So again, just loaded all 3 files, and then I have to just append them together. Although I can also look at the load options for each in case there is like I want to skip some rows at the beginning, or the first row doesn't have column headers, so I can make these changes here. But this is how you can just select multiple Excel files and add it, or you can just drag and drop. So if I delete these tables and February and oops, just go to detail and April, and then you can drag and drop it here. So when I drag and drop, it just display them in the preview page, and then I can select each one of them, look at the a preview of the data, see what it is. Does it have column headers? It doesn't have column headers, and then use the load options. Although I don't know why it's just taking so long. So use the load options here and change any settings here. But if I want to just load, oops, let me just hide this. Close window, and then open selected. So these 3 are selected, the new ones that I drag and drop, so I can just add them here. And then I can use append options to append all these 3 files into one one table. Can you use wildcard character to select files? No. No, you can't. But if you are using Automator, you can use wildcard character in Automator.
So, well, we have a hand raised. So I was going to give open mic for Pam to ask her question.
Sure.
So, let me unmute you, Pam, and then if you can unmute on your side and ask your question. Did you have a question, Pam? Right now you're muted. If you wanted to ask, you should be able to unmute. Oh, okay, it was an accident raised hand. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so no more questions? If there's no more questions, I can go to another example. So let's just close this. Okay. So let's go to the Excel. All right, so this is another good one. I took this from one of my colleagues for the demo. Okay, so again, this has the musical shipping data. As you can see, there is some media information in this file. Okay. Again, I can drag and drop it or open data spreadsheet, and I want to double click on Excel worksheet. Okay, and select the Excel file, and here we are in the worksheet design. Again, I have to define or look at the data and see what data would be used for detail, because those data would be the data record for the table. So the media obviously is the one that's are repeated. So I want a record for every media data or row as a data record, and other data would be repeated for the detail template. Okay. So again, I forgot to mention that we have these buttons at the bottom here. You can, use the slider to make the fonts bigger or change, the column size, make it smaller. This obviously doesn't work because I have to select multiple rows to change the row height. This one just shows the Excel formatting, hide Excel formatting, so you can just see Excel formatting, and you can always search for some data in your report if you want to find something in the report. Okay, so again, let's just select the row that I want to use for detail. Okay, I'm going to select those 4 rows. Okay, for detail, and add columns, and then change that media. Okay. Again, you notice that solid triangles apply to column C, which means the trap is applied to column C. Okay, there is no, doesn't have solid triangle. However, if I scroll down, you notice that only selecting these rows and not selecting others. Okay, so before I figure out why, let's just select the column header and then click on define column, define headers, define headers. So that just gives me the column header. But now let's look at to see why is not picking up other rows here. Okay, again, I have 4 columns so far and 1 trap. So if I click on the pencil, okay, so it is looking for is non-blank, obviously is non-blank. And the font is font name, Calibri. Well, that is also, this is true, it's Calibri. And 11, yeah, and the color, the alignment is left and bottom. Okay, so I'm looking at the cell that did not picked up. Okay, so is it left? Yeah, it is left, but the vertical alignment is top. But the one on top was the bottom vertical alignment. Okay, therefore it did not pick up these rows because they are the vertical alignment is on top. Okay, so one way to do this is maybe I can just uncheck this, see what happens. Okay, I don't need the alignment, see if it just picks up. But you also notice that it also picking up order number and ship date. Okay, because there's a solid triangle here. Okay, by doing that. Okay, or I know they both are left aligned, but not, I don't care about the bottom. So let's see, again, it's just picking up these order number and ship date and other data that I don't want to be picked up. Okay, so I may have to just change the trapping. Maybe I can just change that, go to the value, and when it says it's non-blank, I can make that to be like a, Monarch expression, because they all starts with character. Okay, or I noticed that they all uppercase. Okay, so if I use Monarch expression and I use alpha, because I know at least there are 2 characters here. Okay, so it just picks up the media, but it also picked up media here because that's also alpha, but nothing else was picked up here. Okay, so then I can add another rule. Okay, and if it starts with media and negate that, then you notice that it's just not picking up that media. Okay, So it's just picking up all the rows that for the media rows. Okay. Now that one way, and I also noticed that the media are all uppercase. So instead of doing this start with, I can just, oops, maybe I shouldn't have deleted that, but maybe I can just do it here. I can just say all uppercase. Okay, by using is uppercase, anything that's, all these medias that are uppercase, it will be selected because of the solid triangle. Okay. So again, once you add the columns or add table, you still have to take a look at your data to see they're all being picked up by looking at that solid triangle. Okay. All right. So I selected my detail template. Now I want to select the order number and ship date. Okay. Again, these would be two different templates. So again, order number and ship date, they are above the detail. So first I'm going to grab the ship date. This has to be two separate templates. Whereas if it was text in Monarch, you would select 2 lines of sample and then apply. But we can just do as one, as a separate template. And then add column. So that just adds the ship date. And is date time. And then another template. Again, order number is above the detail. And add column. And we change the name to order number. Okay. So now let's just select customer. Okay, because the customer is multi-line. So if I select that cell for customer, then I can just, well, before I do that, well, I can see, notice that this is captured this as an append. So I don't need to select an append template since this option is available here. So this would create a new template, append template, and add that data for that cell. So I can just change the name, append template to customer. Okay. Now I want to capture the whole block here. Again, you just first let's just change the name to customer. So that is the field name, and then by selecting this option, enable multi-select. So it starts with blank, stop type blank, and then delimiter space. So when it sees a blank, it stops, and delimiter would be space. Okay. So you have other choices here in case blank doesn't work. So you can, if you know these are always 4 lines, you can just say 4 lines. Okay. Okay. Or you can just delimiter would be other choices here that you can select. Okay. Then if I want to capture the total, okay, so the total is load the detail. So I need to select group footer or footer templates first, because there is no footer options up here, but I can select a footer choice here, footer, and that would be total. All right, and I can select these 3 rows, even though the the cell under the E column is blank, but I'm going to select the 3 rows and then add columns, and then remove the E column because I don't need the E column, and then manually modify the name. So this would be the total quantity total. And then the next one would be the amount total.
So Mo, we're coming up on 3 minutes. I want to be able to give a chance for the audience to vote. I don't want to cut you off.
All right. So again, you just select, apply it to the first sheet. The first sheet is the choice because there's only one sheet. Click OK, and then save your. So change. I usually change the table name here, and then this is the data that's extracted. Okay. I hope this demo was useful. All right, back to you, Rebecca.
So I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll question. So if your screen was at a maximum capacity, you will have to downsize it so that you can make your selection. So for our next May 21st, would you like to review Monarch Server, Report Warehouse Overview? And I think, Mo, you had some words you want to say about Report Warehouse. I think we lost Mo. And then Monarch Server.
Sorry, Rebecca, I was on mute. I didn't realize I put myself on mute. Yeah, for those of you who are not sure what Report Warehouse is, Monarch Server comes with 3 programs: Report Warehouse, Automator, and RMS. Report Warehouse allows you to ingest reports such as PDF and text, and you need to build a model in Monarch Classic to specify the index values, and then you can ingest that report, and then the report will be available for the end users. So basically for the users that don't have access to Monarch, but they still like to look at the report and apply a model and extract data from that report in the data view or table view, so they can do it in Report Warehouse client. So that is in a nutshell, that is the Report Warehouse. But there is a lot more into a Report Warehouse.
Thank you, Mo. And then we have Monarch Server, working with sequential and parallel jobs, or we could do DPS summary enhancements. And then the last option is other. This is at the end of our session when the webinar closes, there is a short survey. So please, if you can complete that for us. There is a spot that says submit your extra question topic, so we can then add that to the voting queue for the following session. So it looks like we're about halfway there with votes. So you select what's really important to you that you'd like to learn and cover about for next session. And again, it's open Q&A, so any questions, if we don't pick your topic, please feel free to put your question in the chat that we can review, even if it's not the topic that got selected. So we're about 3/4 of the way. So I'll do a countdown. So we'll do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so let me share those results real quick. So it looks like we will be doing Report Warehouse. All right. And I just find myself here real quick and share my slide deck and move my screen over. So I'll be really quick for closing. Presenter. All right, so again, this handout section, there's a copy of the PowerPoint here. So these are the helpful web links if you didn't know about these resources. And then there's some screenshots like of the user community. The Monarch Forum encourage you to subscribe. This is how you'll receive notification of upcoming events or updates. Documentation, you can filter down from Monarch, great resource, the help guide. Altair Exchange is our model library. In fact, in that Monarch forum, there is a shortcut to this long listing. There are up to 2,700 pre-built models and workspaces. At the bottom is a PDF document of that catalog. And then our Learning Center. We do have e-learning modules that you can register for. There's even a Monarch certification course that you could take where you'll receive a LinkedIn badge if you pass the test. There's like 3 attempts to pass the test. And then Marketplace, that's the latest client download. Obviously, this shot showing an older version, but you understand the concept. And if your organization has not received a complimentary onboarding session, it's a general overview of Data Prep Studio, kind of highlight trapping and capturing the data that is complimentary, as well as a automator session. And then our upcoming events, it's just our next Ask the Experts. So May 21st, we'll cover that topic of Report Warehouse. And thank you all. Saying 2 minutes late, so I apologize. Thank you all again. Mo, thank you. And we hope to hear from you guys next time. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.